The greatest enemy of a person is himself. Not circumstances, not enemies, not the system, but that quiet inner voice that knows all your weaknesses and never misses its strike. That voice appears at the most critical moment. It doesn't shout, it whispers. Wait, you're not ready. Others are stronger. What if you fail? It disguises itself as reason, caution, experience, but in truth, it is fear and pride as well. Fear of losing face, pride that refuses to allow mistakes in learning. An external enemy is honest. It stands in front of you. The internal one lives inside you. It knows exactly where you will break. It stops you before the first step. Because of it, you postpone life for later. Wait for the perfect moment, ideal conditions, confidence. But that moment never comes. Winners are not those without doubt. Winners are those who act despite it. Real strength begins when you stop arguing with that voice and simply move forward, step by step, not perfectly, but honestly. If you feel resistance inside, it means you are on the right path. Subscribe if you want to defeat not the outside world, but the most difficult opponent of all, yourself. Defeat rarely starts on the battlefield. It begins quietly, inside the mind, long before anything visible happens. A single doubt, a moment of hesitation, an unchallenged fear, these are the cracks where collapse starts. Before circumstances break you, your thoughts often do. You replay possible failures, imagine judgment, exaggerate risks. What feels like caution slowly becomes paralysis. You tell yourself you're being realistic, patient, smart. In truth, you are preparing yourself to retreat. Fear doesn't need to stop you physically. It only needs to slow your decision, weaken your resolve, or make you question your own worth. One small delay becomes a habit. One missed chance becomes a pattern. Eventually, the external defeat only confirms what was already decided internally. The most dangerous enemy is indecision, not because it feels dramatic, but because it feels reasonable. While you wait for clarity, confidence, or perfect conditions, momentum dies. And without momentum, even the strongest plans collapse. Victory begins the same way defeat does, internally. When you choose to act despite uncertainty, despite fear, despite imperfect preparation, the outcome may still be unknown, but the battle has already changed. The most dangerous blow is not physical. It is a single thought. I'm not good enough. This idea doesn't arrive loudly or violently. It settles quietly in the mind and begins to shape everything that follows. Once this belief takes root, it weakens you from the inside. External pressure may challenge you, but internal dialogue defines how you respond. A critical voice can dismantle confidence faster than any opponent. It questions your worth, magnifies every mistake, and turns hesitation into identity. Over time, you stop testing your limits, not because you can't, but because you've already decided the outcome. What makes this thought so destructive is its disguise. It pretends to be honesty, humility, or realism. In truth, it is fear wearing a rational mask. It convinces you to play small, to avoid risk, to remain silent when action is required. External obstacles can be confronted, measured, and overcome. Internal narratives are harder to see and therefore harder to fight. They influence choices long before action begins, quietly determining how much effort you allow yourself to give. Strength does not come from silencing the voice completely. It comes from refusing to obey it. The moment you act despite that thought, its power begins to fade. True strength is not rigidity, but flexibility. True strength is often misunderstood. Many believe it means being unbreakable, immovable, and hard. In reality, rigidity is what breaks first. Real strength lies in flexibility, in the ability to adapt without losing one's core. To be like water is not to be weak. Water yields, yet it overcomes. It changes form to fit any container, flows around obstacles, and finds paths where force fails. A rigid object resists pressure until it cracks. Water absorbs pressure, redirects it, and continues forward. In life, rigid thinking creates fragility. When plans collapse, identities tied to fixed expectations collapse with them. The person who cannot adapt feels defeated by change, while the flexible one adjusts and moves on. Flexibility allows you to learn, to recover, and to grow stronger through disruption, rather than being destroyed by it. This does not mean abandoning principles or losing direction. Water remains water no matter the shape it takes. In the same way, adaptability does not require surrendering values or purpose. It requires letting go of attachment to a single path. Strength is the capacity to endure change without losing yourself. Those who can bend, flow, and evolve remain intact when others shatter. Flexibility is wisdom, not weakness. Flexibility is often mistaken for weakness. People admire rigidity, equating hardness with strength, and see compromise as surrender. Yet in reality, rigidity breaks under pressure, while flexibility endures and ultimately prevails. A rigid tree snaps in the storm. A bamboo bends and survives. Life works in the same way. Circumstances are unpredictable, challenges relentless, and resistance alone cannot protect you. When you insist on staying fixed, you risk shattering under forces beyond your control. When you flow, adjust, and adapt, you endure, you learn, you grow stronger. Flexibility is not abandoning principles or giving in. It is the wisdom to recognize what can be changed and what must remain. It is the ability to navigate obstacles without losing your essence. Like water carving through rock, soft persistence eventually reshapes the world, while brute force falters. Those who understand this carry power quietly, without proving it to anyone. They survive where the stubborn fail. They achieve where the rigid are defeated. True mastery is not in resisting the world, but in moving with it, bending without breaking, and staying true to yourself while everything around you shifts. Fear exists in everyone. The difference is how you respond. Fear is universal. Every person experiences it, from the moment they take their first step into the unknown. It is a natural response, a signal that something matters, that the stakes are real. Fear itself is not weakness, it is simply information. The difference between those who succeed and those who falter is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Those who avoid fear wait for certainty that never comes. They overthink, postpone, and rationalize safety. Meanwhile, life moves forward, opportunities pass, and growth remains out of reach. Fear can paralyze, or it can fuel action. It tests resolve, measuring how badly you want what you seek. Courage is not the absence of trembling hands or a racing heart. It is stepping forward while your mind warns you to stay back. It is continuing when hesitation whispers to retreat. Those who embrace fear, who use it as a compass rather than a cage, discover resilience, strength, and freedom. True victory comes to those who recognize fear, respect it, and move anyway. Fear does not disappear, it transforms into momentum for those willing to take the step. Fear is not the enemy. It is not a signal to stop, retreat, or give up. Fear is a guide, a quiet examiner pointing to the exact places where you need to grow, where you need to stretch, and where you must confront your limitations. It exposes your weaknesses not to shame you, but to show you where strength is needed. Every time fear rises, it is a test of commitment, of courage, of resolve. Will you let it paralyze you, or will you step forward anyway? The moment you face fear, you discover not only what you are capable of, but also who you truly are. Avoiding fear keeps you small. Confronting it expands your world. The path to growth is paved with moments of discomfort, uncertainty, and hesitation. Those who succeed do not do so because fear never touched them. They succeed because they acted despite it. They use fear as a compass, not a barrier. Next time fear whispers in your ear, don't run. Lean in, learn, act. Subscribe if you're ready to turn fear into your greatest teacher and unlock your true potential. Strength is born in silence and discipline. True strength does not emerge from applause or recognition. It is not measured by the cheers of others or the visible accolades of achievement. Real power is forged quietly in the solitary hours of repetition, focus, and unwavering commitment. Discipline is the unseen force that transforms potential into mastery. It is showing up when no one is watching, doing the work that feels tedious, mundane, or even uncomfortable. Every repetition, every deliberate action chips away at weakness and builds resilience. Success is not a single dramatic moment. It is the accumulation of countless silent victories, the small choices made consistently over time. Silence allows the mind to focus and the spirit to grow. It is in these moments of solitude that reflection, adjustment, and refinement take place. Without distraction or external validation, the individual learns patience, humility, and self-reliance. Those who seek strength in spectacle or recognition often crumble under pressure. Those who cultivate it in quiet discipline withstand challenges, adapt to obstacles, and endure far beyond what is expected. True power is a product of consistent effort, repeated practice, and the ability to remain steadfast when no one else is watching. Strength is not loud, it is persistent, it is silent. Motivation is secondary. Action is what matters. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes, often at the most inconvenient times. Waiting for motivation is waiting for a spark that may never arrive. True change does not happen when inspiration strikes, it happens when you make a decision to act. Life does not bend to wishes, dreams, or fleeting bursts of enthusiasm. It responds to choices. Every meaningful step forward begins with a decision to try, to move, to commit, even when you don't feel ready. Motivation can help, but it is never the driving force. Action is. Choosing to act means starting without guarantees. It means embracing uncertainty, stepping into discomfort, and accepting that failure is part of the process. Motivation cannot replace courage or persistence, but deliberate action can create momentum, confidence, and results that fuel further progress. Waiting for the perfect moment, the right feeling, or the ideal conditions is a trap. Every moment spent hesitating is time lost. Decisions to act, even imperfectly, shape your reality far more than hours spent feeling inspired. Life changes not because you feel ready, but because you choose to step forward again and again until movement becomes momentum and action becomes transformation. Confidence comes after the step, not before it. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. It is the result of action itself. Many wait, believing they must feel ready, prepared, or fully equipped before taking a step. This belief is a trap. You do not become ready by waiting. You become ready by moving. Every journey begins with a single, often uncertain step. The first attempt may feel awkward, uncomfortable, or even frightening. You may stumble, hesitate, or fail. Yet it is in this process, in the act of trying, that true confidence begins to form. Each action reinforces capability. Each challenge faced expands your sense of what is possible. Preparation alone does not create mastery. It is through experience, through navigating obstacles and adapting to circumstances that readiness develops. You learn your strengths, confront your weaknesses, and discover resilience you didn't know you had. Those who wait for certainty often remain stationary, paralyzed by doubt. Those who step forward despite fear cultivate confidence naturally, organically, step by step. Confidence is not given, it is earned. It grows in motion, nurtured by persistence, reinforced by small victories, and solidified in the willingness to continue moving even when the path is unclear. The pain of inaction is worse than the pain of defeat. Fear of failure often holds people back, yet the real suffering comes not from trying and losing, but from never trying at all. The pain of inaction quietly accumulates day by day, unnoticed until it becomes unbearable. Every missed opportunity, every postponed decision, every moment spent waiting for the right time chips away at the life you could have built. Defeat is temporary. It stings, but it teaches, strengthens, and propels growth. Failure leaves a mark, but it also leaves lessons and momentum for the next attempt. In contrast, inaction leaves no lessons, no momentum, no satisfaction. It leaves only regret, a haunting sense of what might have been. People fear the visible scars of loss, yet the invisible wounds of hesitation cut deeper. Living in fear of consequences keeps you stagnant, watching life unfold from the sidelines. Opportunities pass, potential fades, dreams remain unfulfilled. The truth is simple. Trying and failing is far less painful than the slow, relentless erosion of your own possibilities. Action, even imperfect action, builds resilience, experience, and self-respect. Inaction only builds chains. To grow, to learn, to live fully, you must act, because the agony of standing still is far greater than the sting of defeat. The pain of inaction is worse than the pain of defeat. Fear of failure often holds people back, yet the real suffering comes not from trying and losing, but from never trying at all. The pain of inaction quietly accumulates, day by day, unnoticed until it becomes unbearable. Every missed opportunity, every postponed decision, every moment spent waiting for the right time chips away at the life you could have built. Defeat is temporary. It stings, but it teaches, strengthens, and propels growth. Failure leaves a mark, but it also leaves lessons and momentum for the next attempt. In contrast, inaction leaves no lessons, no momentum, no satisfaction. It leaves only regret, a haunting sense of what might have been. People fear the visible scars of loss, yet the invisible wounds of hesitation cut deeper. Living in fear of consequences keeps you stagnant, watching life unfold from the sidelines. Opportunities pass, potential fades, dreams remain unfulfilled. The truth is simple. Trying and failing is far less painful than the slow, relentless erosion of your own possibilities. Action, even imperfect action, builds resilience, experience, and self-respect. Inaction only builds chains. To grow, to learn, to live fully, you must act, because the agony of standing still is far greater than the sting of defeat. Knowledge without action is dead. Knowledge alone is powerless. Understanding, insight, or wisdom, no matter how profound, remains useless if it is not applied. You can read countless books, attend seminars, or memorize strategies, but until you act, your understanding is inert. It exists only in theory, not in reality. The moment of comprehension is meaningless without implementation. Ideas not tested, skills not practiced, lessons not applied, they wither like seeds never planted. Knowledge becomes alive only when it drives behavior, shapes decisions, and influences outcomes. Action is the bridge between knowing and becoming. Many spend their lives accumulating information, believing that awareness itself is achievement. They plan endlessly, reflect endlessly, and prepare endlessly. But the world does not respond to intentions alone. Transformation occurs when thought is paired with motion, when understanding meets experience. Failure in action teaches far more than knowledge alone ever could. Mistakes refine insight, reveal gaps, and strengthen resolve. In contrast, unused knowledge breeds stagnation, frustration, and the illusion of progress. True mastery is not in learning, but in doing. Knowledge gains value only when it changes behavior, produces results, and becomes lived experience. Without action, it is dead, a shadow of potential never realized. Freedom begins when you stop living for others' approval. True freedom is not simply the absence of external constraints. It begins when you release the need for approval, praise, or validation from others. For much of life, people live dictated by opinions, shaping their choices, behavior, and identity to fit the expectations of family, society, or peers. This constant adjustment creates invisible chains, restricting growth, creativity, and authenticity. When you live for others' approval, every decision is filtered through fear of judgment, rejection, or disapproval. Every action becomes calculated, every word measured, every dream compromised. You sacrifice your desires, your potential, and even your happiness to meet standards that are not your own. Freedom begins the moment you stop seeking permission to exist as yourself. It begins when you honor your own voice, follow your own path, and take responsibility for your choices without looking to others for validation. This does not mean ignoring guidance, criticism, or learning from others. It means the final authority on your life resides within you. The path is not easy. It requires courage to face criticism, resistance, and the discomfort of being misunderstood. But once you choose yourself over approval, your life becomes yours in the truest sense. Freedom is born not from others' acceptance, but from your commitment to authenticity. The true path of a warrior is a dialogue with yourself, not a competition with others. The true path of a warrior is rarely measured by external victories. It is not about defeating others, proving superiority, or gaining recognition. The real battle is internal, a continuous dialogue with yourself, your doubts, fears, and limitations. Every step on this path demands honesty. You must confront your weaknesses, acknowledge your mistakes, and face the parts of yourself you would rather ignore. It is through this confrontation that growth occurs. The warrior tests himself not against an opponent, but against his own resistance, his own hesitation, and the boundaries he has unconsciously accepted. External challenges are temporary and external. They can be avoided, mitigated, or endured. The internal challenge is constant. It is the voice that questions your worth, the fear that seeks to paralyze, and the pride that refuses to learn. Victory comes not when others submit, but when you master these internal forces. Discipline, patience, and persistence are cultivated in solitude. Every repetition, every small act of courage, every moment of reflection strengthens the warrior within. By focusing on your internal journey rather than external comparison, you discover resilience, clarity, and true power. The warrior who conquers himself is unstoppable regardless of the battles life presents. Life changes the moment you decide, I will no longer live like this. Life rarely changes slowly or by accident. The real turning point comes in a single moment, the moment you make a clear, uncompromising decision. I will no longer live like this. Not a wish, not a hope, a decision. This moment usually comes after exhaustion, after excuses stop working, after you realize that continuing the same way hurts more than the fear of change. Nothing around you may shift immediately, but something inside does. You stop negotiating with your weakness. You stop waiting for permission, perfect timing, or outside rescue. A decision redraws your identity. It changes how you tolerate discomfort, how you respond to fear, how you see yourself. From that point on, every action either aligns with the new standard or reminds you why you chose it. This is not about motivation or excitement. It's about commitment. Motivation fades, decisions remain. When you decide, obstacles become problems to solve, not reasons to quit. Pain becomes part of the process, not a signal to turn back. If this message resonates, it's not by accident. Subscribe for hard truths, inner strength, and ideas that push you to take control of your life.